Whispers crawl beneath the skin, a shadow's grin.
The family icon. Alex Carter stood in his grandmother's empty apartment, the smell of incense and old wood still clinging to the walls. 3 days had passed since Yaya Maria died in her sleep, her gnarled fingers clutching her prayer beads. Now he was alone with her things, sorting through a lifetime of memories and Orthodox tradition. Most of the apartment would go to charity. The furniture was ancient, the clothes outdated. But there was one thing his mother insisted he take. One thing Yaya Maria had mentioned in her will with unusual specificity. The icon. It hung on the eastern wall of her bedroom, exactly where it had been for as long as Alex could remember. Even as a child visiting from Boston, he'd been fascinated by it. The Archangel Michael, rendered in the old style, all gold leaf and deep crimson, his wings spread wide, a flaming sword pointed downward at a cowering demon beneath his feet. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, probably 17th or 18th century, worth a small fortune to the right collector. Alex reached up to take it down, and his hand hesitated. Yaya Maria's last words came back to him with sudden force. She'd been in the hospital, her mind wandering in and out of clarity, but when she'd grabbed his wrist that final afternoon, her grip had been iron strong. Her eyes, rheumy with age, had locked onto his with terrifying focus. The icon, Alexei, you take it. You are the guardian now. Of course, Yaya, I'll take good care of it. No, her nails had dug into his skin. You listen, it must always face the east wall, always east, you understand, never move it, never turn it around, never look at the back. Yaya, I promise, I'll hang it properly, I know the traditions. This is not tradition. She'd pulled him closer, her breath shallow and quick. This is survival, the back, Alexei. Whatever you do, whatever happens, do not look at the back. It must face east. It must stay facing east. Promise me on your daughter's life. The intensity had frightened him. I promise, Yaya, I promise. She'd released him then, falling back against the pillows, exhausted. Those were the last coherent words she'd spoken. Now standing alone in the apartment, Alex carefully lifted the icon from its hook. It was heavier than he expected, solid wood beneath the painted surface. He kept it facing forward, resisting the urge to flip it over and examine the back. Yaya Maria's warning echoed too strongly. He wrapped it in a blanket and carried it to his car. 2 days later, the icon hung on the eastern wall of his and Jessica's apartment in Cambridge. Their place was modern, all clean lines and neutral colors, and the ancient religious artifact looked oddly out of place. But a promise was a promise. It's beautiful, Jessica said, studying it from the couch. The gold work is incredible, must be worth quite a bit. Probably, Alex agreed, but we're keeping it, family heirloom. Their daughter Emma, 6 years old with her mother's dark curls, wandered over to stand before it. She tilted her head, studying the severe face of the archangel. He looks sad, she said quietly. Alex smiled. He's fighting a demon, sweetheart. He's being serious, not sad. No, Emma shook her head, still staring up. He looks sad, like he's sorry about something. Jessica ruffled Emma's hair. That's a very thoughtful observation, baby. Now go wash up for dinner. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, Jessica breathing softly beside him, and found his thoughts returning again and again to the icon, to Yaya Maria's warning, to the odd weight of it in his hands. He got up quietly and walked to the living room. The icon hung in shadow, the streetlight from outside casting strange angles across the archangel's face. In the dim light, the eyes seemed to follow him. Alex stepped closer. The painting was remarkably well preserved. The gold leaf still gleamed. The demon beneath the archangel's feet was rendered with equal care, its face twisted in eternal agony, its body broken and bleeding. He reached out and touched the frame, cool wood smooth with age. Do not look at the back. He pulled his hand away and returned to bed. The weeks passed normally. Alex went to work at his architectural firm. Jessica continued her research at MIT. Emma went to first grade and came home with stories about her friends and complaints about homework. The icon became part of the background, just another piece of furniture they stopped noticing. Until the party. It was Jessica's birthday, early November, and they'd invited 24 friends over. The apartment filled with music and laughter, wine flowed freely, and by 10 o'clock the living room was packed with people dancing and talking over each other. Alex was in the kitchen refreshing drinks when he heard the crash. He rushed out to find a small crowd gathered near the eastern wall. The icon lay face down on the floor, its hanging wire snapped. A guest named Marcus, embarrassed and apologetic, was already picking it up. "I'm so sorry, man, I backed into it. I didn't realize it was loose." It's fine. Alex hurried over and took it from Marcus's hands. "No harm done, just let me, I'll handle it." But in the transfer, the icon tilted in his grip. For just a moment, no more than a second, Alex saw the back. It wasn't blank wood. There was something painted there, something dark. He caught a glimpse of what might have been a face, upside down, before he righted the icon and pressed it against his chest, breathing hard. "Alex, you okay?" Jessica was at his elbow, concerned. Yeah, I'm good. Just this thing is important, family thing, you know." He found some spare picture wire in the utility closet and rehung the icon, making sure it was secure this time. The Archangel Michael stared out at the room with his eternal expression of divine severity. Alex avoided looking at it for the rest of the night. But he couldn't shake what he'd seen. The next morning, he was up before Jessica and Emma. The apartment was quiet, littered with empty bottles and abandoned glasses. He cleaned mechanically, his mind elsewhere. Finally, he stood before the icon. In the daylight, it looked no different than it ever had. Beautiful, ancient, sacred. He reached up and gently, carefully, tried to tilt it forward to see the back without taking it off the wall. The frame wouldn't budge. It sat flush against the wall, the wire tight. To see the back, he would have to remove it entirely. "Do not look at the back." Alex let his hand fall. He was being ridiculous. It was probably just aged wood, or maybe there was a smaller painting, a sketch, something the original artist had done, nothing sinister. But then why had Maria been so insistent? That afternoon, while Jessica took Emma to a birthday party, Alex sat at his laptop and began to research. He started with basic queries about Orthodox icons, their construction, their symbolism. He learned that icons were considered windows to the divine, that they were blessed and venerated, that some were said to have performed miracles. Then he narrowed his search to his family name, Papadopoulos, and the village in Crete where Maria had been born. What he found made his blood run cold. It was a scanned page from an old academic journal, written in Greek but with an English translation available. An anthropological study of local folklore from the early 20th century. One passage stood out. The Papadopoulos family of Agios Nikolaos maintain an unusual tradition regarding a family icon said to date from the 16th century. According to local legend, an ancestor, Dimitrios Papadopoulos, was a monk who encountered a demon plaguing the village. Through prayer and sacrifice, Dimitrios trapped the demon within an icon, binding it with the image of the Archangel Michael on one side and sealing its true form on the reverse. The family became guardians of this icon, with strict instructions that it must always face east, toward Jerusalem, and must never be turned or moved. To do so, they claim, would weaken the binding and allow the demon to influence the physical world. Alex read the passage 3 times, then he read it again. Folklore, just folklore, old superstitions from people who didn't understand the world. But Maria had believed it. Her fear had been real. He looked up from the laptop to where the icon hung. The Archangel Michael stared back at him, wings spread, sword pointed down. Guarding something, or keeping something in. That night, Emma woke up screaming. Alex and Jessica rushed to her room to find her sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, her entire body shaking. "Baby, what's wrong?" Jessica gathered her into her arms. "Bad dream." "The shadow man," Emma sobbed. "He was in my room. He was standing at the end of my bed, smiling. He had too many teeth." "Sweetheart, there's no one here," Alex said gently, checking her closet and under the bed for good measure. "See, just your stuffed animals, no shadow men." But Emma wouldn't be consoled. She insisted on sleeping between them that night, her small body tense and afraid. The next morning, Alex found her in the living room, sitting cross-legged in front of her art supplies. She was drawing with intense concentration, her tongue poking out the corner of her mouth the way it always did when she focused. "What's a drawing, Em?" She held up the paper. The image made Alex's stomach drop. It was a figure, definitely human-shaped but wrong. Its limbs were too long, bent at odd angles. Its smile was too wide, filled with triangular teeth. And most disturbing, it appeared to be emerging from or pressed against a rectangular frame. "That's the shadow man," Emma said matter-of-factly. "He was in my dream. He said he wants to come out and play." "Emma, honey, why did you draw him in a picture frame?" She looked at Alex like the answer was obvious. "Because that's where he lives, in the picture on the wall, the one with the sad angel." Alex felt the temperature in the room drop. "Emma, the angel picture is just a painting. There's nothing else in it." "Not in it," Emma returned to her drawing, adding more teeth to the smile. "Behind it, he showed me. He's stuck on the other side, but he's trying really hard to get out. He said you helped him." "How did I help him?" "You moved his house, now he can wiggle." Jessica appeared from the bedroom, tying her robe. "Everything okay out here?" Alex showed her Emma's drawing. Jessica frowned. "That's pretty dark, Em. Did you have another bad dream?" "It wasn't a dream." Emma selected a black crayon and began adding shadows. "The shadow man is real. He talks to me." Jessica and Alex exchanged worried looks. Emma had never shown any signs of this kind of imagination before. She was a practical kid, more interested in science experiments than fantasy. "Maybe we should call Dr. Stevens," Jessica whispered. "Make sure everything's okay." Alex nodded, but his eyes drifted to the icon. In the morning light, it looked perfectly innocent. Just an old painting, just family history. So why did he suddenly want it out of his house? Over the next 3 days, things got worse. The apartment was always cold now, no matter how high they set the thermostat. Jessica started complaining about it, wearing sweaters indoors. The windows developed a persistent condensation that wouldn't wipe away. Emma's dreams continued. Every night she would wake up, sometimes screaming, sometimes just crying quietly, insisting the shadow man had visited her. Her drawings became more elaborate, more disturbing. The figure developed horns in some drawings, wings in others, always that terrible smile. And Alex began to notice something else. The icon was in a slightly different position each morning. It was subtle, so subtle he thought he was imagining it at first, but he started making small marks on the wall with pencil, barely visible reference points. And each morning the icon had shifted, never much, an inch to the left, half an inch up, never enough to be obvious, but definitely moved. The hanging wire was secure. There was no reason for it to shift, unless something was moving it from the inside. On the fourth night, Alex couldn't take it anymore. He waited until Jessica and Emma were asleep, then crept out to the living room. He'd set up his laptop on the coffee table earlier, positioned so its camera faced the icon. Now he started a recording app and settled in to watch. For 2 hours, nothing happened. The icon hung motionless. Alex felt foolish, sitting in the dark, staring at a painting like it might suddenly sprout legs. At 2:17 in the morning, the temperature dropped so suddenly that Alex's breath became visible. At 2:18, the icon began to turn. It was slow, so slow that Alex didn't notice it at first, but gradually, degree by degree, the icon rotated on its hook. The archangel's face slid out of view, and the frame turned until the back was visible. Alex couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. The back of the icon was painted. The wood was covered in an image rendered in the same style as the front, same gold leaf, same medieval technique. But where the front showed divine triumph, the back showed something else entirely. A figure, humanoid but wrong. It was painted as if pressed against the surface from the other side, its hands flat against the wood, its face distorted by the pressure, horns curved from its skull. Its mouth was open in a rictus of rage or hunger, and most horrible of all, its eyes were open, staring directly at Alex. As he watched, frozen in terror, one of the painted hands moved. It was like watching a time lapse of something growing. The fingers, which had been spread flat in one position, slowly closed into a fist. The process took several minutes, but it was undeniable. The painting was changing. Alex finally found his voice. A whimper escaped his throat. The sound broke the spell. He lunged forward and grabbed the icon, spinning it back around. His hands shook as he straightened it. The Archangel Michael faced out once more, severe and righteous. Alex backed away, breathing hard. He looked at his laptop. The recording light was still on. He had evidence. He wasn't insane. Except when he played back the footage the next morning, in the harsh light of day, the video showed nothing but a still image of the icon hanging motionless for hours. The rotation hadn't been captured. The changing painting hadn't been recorded. It was as if it had never happened. But Alex knew what he'd seen. He called his mother that afternoon. She was living in Florida now, had been estranged from Yaya Maria for years over some family dispute Alex had never understood. "Mom, I need to ask you about Yaya's icon." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "You took it." "She left it to me. I'm the guardian now, apparently." "Oh God, Alexei," his mother's voice went tight. "You need to get rid of it, take it to a church, let them deal with it, don't keep it in your house." "Why, what's really going on with this thing?" Another pause, then, "Your great-great-grandfather Dimitrios, Yaya used to tell me the story when I was little. He was a monk, very devout, very serious about his faith. There was something in his village, something that killed children, took them in the night. People said it was a demon." "Mom, I need facts, not folklore." "This is what I know, Alexei. Dimitrios confronted it, performed some kind of ritual. He trapped it somehow, bound it into an icon, the Archangel Michael on one side to keep it contained, the demon's true form on the other, sealed away. The family became guardians. We're supposed to keep it facing east, toward the Holy Land with the blessed image outward. That keeps the binding strong. And if someone moves it, then the binding weakens and it starts to wake up." Alex thought of Emma's drawings, of the cold apartment, of the figure on the back slowly moving. "How do I stop it? How do I make it safe again?" "You can't," his mother's voice cracked. "The binding is old, Alexei, over 400 years. It weakens with time. Yaya knew it. That's why she was so afraid at the end. She knew it was waking up, and she knew she was passing the burden to you. There has to be a way to fix it. Maybe a priest, maybe, but most wouldn't believe you, and the ones who would, I don't know if they'd have the power Dimitrios had." She sighed. "I'm sorry, Alexei, I should have warned you. I should have told you not to take it. She left me no choice. It was in her will." "I know, that's what scares me." That night, Alex told Jessica everything. She listened with skeptical patience, clearly thinking he was overstressed, maybe having some kind of breakdown. "Alex, honey, I love you, but you're talking about demons and cursed paintings. This isn't like you." "I know how it sounds, but Emma's dreams, the drawings, the cold, all of it started after I moved the icon. Correlation isn't causation. It's been a stressful time. Your grandmother died. We're all processing grief." Then explain the painting on the back. Explain why it moves. "You saw it move one time in the middle of the night when you were exhausted, and the video didn't catch it, which suggests it didn't actually happen." Alex wanted to argue, but he couldn't, not with evidence. Will you at least help me? One night, we'll watch it together. If nothing happens, I'll drop it. I'll see a therapist, I'll get help, but if something does happen." Jessica studied his face for a long moment, then she nodded. "One night, but if this is just anxiety, we're getting you professional help." They set up that night after putting Emma to bed. 2 chairs facing the icon, the laptop recording, both of them watching in the dark. For hours, nothing. Jessica dozed off around midnight. Alex stayed awake, staring until his eyes burned. At 2 in the morning, Jessica woke with a gasp. "It's freezing." The temperature had dropped, their breath misted in the air, and on the wall the icon was turning. Jessica stood up slowly, her hand finding Alex's. They watched in horrified silence as the frame rotated, revealing the back. The demon was there, but it had moved since Alex had last seen it. Before, its hands had been flat against the surface. Now they were curled into claws, its face was pressed harder against the wood, the features more distorted, and worst of all, it had shifted position. It was no longer in the center of the panel. It had moved several inches to the right, as if crawling toward the edge. "Oh my God," Jessica breathed. "Oh my God, what is that?" "It's what was bound, what Dimitrios trapped." They watched for 10 minutes as the figure imperceptibly moved, its painted form slowly inching toward the frame's edge. The motion was so gradual it was almost invisible, but it was there. Then the icon rotated back. The archangel faced outward once more, the temperature normalized. Jessica was shaking. "We need to call someone, a priest, an expert. We can't have this thing in our house." Agreed. Alex was already reaching for his phone, but then they heard it. Emma was screaming. They ran to her room. She was standing on her bed, her back pressed against the wall, staring at the corner near her closet. "He's here, he's out, the shadow man is out." There was nothing visible, but the corner was darker than it should be, shadows pooling in defiance of the nightlight's glow. Jessica grabbed Emma and pulled her out of the room. Alex followed, slamming the door behind them. They huddled in the master bedroom, Emma between them, all 3 squeezed into the bed. No one slept. They waited for dawn. In the morning light, Emma's room looked normal, but her drawings had been disturbed. They lay scattered across the floor, and on top of the pile was a new one. Neither Alex nor Jessica had seen Emma draw it. It showed the shadow man fully outside the frame now, standing tall, its smile wider than ever. And beneath it, in Emma's careful first-grade handwriting, were 3 words. "I see you." Alex called in sick to work. Jessica did the same. They kept Emma home from school. The icon, they decided, had to go immediately. But when Alex tried to take it off the wall, he couldn't. His hands touched the frame and recoiled involuntarily, as if shocked. He tried again, same result. Jessica tried, same thing. "It won't let us remove it," Alex said, fighting down panic. "It knows we're trying to get rid of it." "Then we leave, we take Emma and we get out of this apartment." "And go where? How long do we stay away? This thing is tied to our family, to me. My mother said it's been passed down for generations. We can't just run from it." "Then what do we do?" Alex thought of Yaya Maria, of her fear, of her final words. "We fight it." He spent the day researching, blessing rituals, exorcism prayers, methods of banishing demons. He called the local Greek Orthodox church and spoke to the priest, Father Dimitrios, ironically named. The old priest listened patiently to Alex's story, then agreed to visit. Father Dimitrios arrived that evening carrying a small case of supplies, holy water, blessed oil, prayer books. He was in his 70s with a long white beard and kind eyes that had seen much. He examined the icon carefully, his face growing more troubled by the moment. "This is very old," he said softly, "very powerful, I can feel it. There is something trapped here, something angry. Can you bless it, strengthen the binding?" "I can try, but Alexei, you must understand, I am not the monk who created this. I do not have his power, his connection to God. I will do what I can, but I cannot promise success." Father Dimitrios set up his materials. He anointed the icon with holy oil, making the sign of the cross. He read prayers in Greek, his voice rising and falling in the ancient chants. He sprinkled holy water. For a while, nothing happened. Then the apartment began to shake. It was subtle at first, just a tremor like a truck passing outside, but it grew stronger. Picture frames rattled, glasses clinked in the cabinets. The icon itself vibrated against the wall, chattering like teeth. Father Dimitrios's voice grew louder, more insistent. He was sweating now, his face pale. And then the icon spun. Violently, it rotated on its hook so fast it blurred around and around, the archangel and the demon flashing alternately. The priest stumbled backward, still chanting, but his voice was drowned out by another sound. Laughter, deep and cruel and infinitely old. The icon stopped spinning, the back faced outward. The demon was no longer pressed against the wood. It was painted as if standing normally, now fully visible, its horns touching the top of the frame, its clawed feet near the bottom. It had moved to the edge. It was nearly out. "I cannot help you," Father Dimitrios said, gathering his things with shaking hands. "This is beyond me. You need someone stronger, a monastery perhaps, the brothers at Mount Athos, but I cannot stay here. I am sorry." He left quickly, making the sign of the cross as he went. Alex turned back to the icon. The frame had rotated back to show the archangel, but the victory felt hollow. They hadn't stopped anything, they'd barely slowed it down. That night was the worst yet. The apartment was glacially cold. Every light bulb in the place blew out within an hour of each other. In the darkness, they could hear movement, footsteps that weren't theirs, breathing that came from empty corners. Emma's screams were constant. Jessica held her, rocking her, both of them crying. Alex stood before the icon with a flashlight, watching it. At midnight, it turned again. The demon was at the very edge of the panel now. One more movement and it would reach the frame. And then what? Would it emerge, become physical? Alex thought of his daughter's drawings, of the teeth, of the smile. He thought of Eueia Maria's final words, "It must face east, never look at the back." But he had looked, he had moved it, he had broken the binding. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the icon, to the archangel, to whatever divine force might be listening. "I'm sorry, Eueia, I didn't understand." The icon turned back, the archangel faced out, but Alex knew it was only a matter of time. The next night or the one after, the demon would complete its journey across the panel, and then it would be free. Unless he found another way. Alex remembered the research, the folklore. What had Dimitrios done to trap it in the first place? Sacrifice and prayer, the text had said, faith strong enough to bind evil. But Alex wasn't a monk, he wasn't even particularly religious. He went to church on Easter, maybe Christmas. He said grace at dinner when he remembered. His faith was cultural, habitual, not the burning conviction of a true believer. Yet he had to try. That night, after Jessica and Emma finally fell into exhausted sleep, Alex sat before the icon. He didn't try to pray formally. He didn't remember the words anyway. Instead, he just talked. "I don't know if you're listening. God, Archangel Michael, Eueia's spirit, whoever. I don't know if faith works like this, if you can just decide to believe, but my daughter is terrified, my wife is terrified. And this thing, this demon, it's going to hurt them. I know it is." He looked at the archangel's painted face. Stern and sad, Emma had said, sad like he's sorry about something. What was he sorry about? Alex wondered aloud. Was he sorry he couldn't hold it forever, that eventually someone weak like me would break the binding? The apartment was silent, no response, no divine revelation. Alex dropped his head into his hands. He was so tired, tired of being afraid, tired of feeling helpless, tired of failing to protect his family. And then Emma's voice, small and frightened, came from behind him. "Oh, Daddy." He turned. She stood in the hallway in her princess pajamas, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. "Zemma, honey, what are you doing up?" "I heard you talking. You sounded sad." She came closer, looking between Alex and the icon. "Are you scared of the shadow man too?" "Yeah, baby, I am." "Me too." She slipped her small hand into his. But Mommy says when we're scared, we should think about the people we love. She says love is stronger than anything. Alex looked down at his daughter, 6 years old, terrified of monsters, and yet here she was, holding his hand, trying to comfort him. Love is stronger than anything. The words resonated in his mind. He thought of Yaya Maria, terrified at the end, but still making sure the icon passed to family. Still making sure someone would guard it. That was love too, in its way. Responsibility born of love. He thought of Demetrios, the monk ancestor, trapping a demon to save his village. Sacrificing his peace, binding his bloodline to an eternal burden. That was love. Love and faith, faith and love, maybe they were the same thing. Zema, go get Mommy, wake her up, I need you both here. 5 minutes later, Jessica and Emma stood beside him, confused and worried but trusting him. Alex looked at the icon, at the archangel's sad, sorry face. I think I understand now, he said softly. The binding isn't just about prayers and holy symbols, it's about why you fight. Demetrios fought out of love for his village. Yaya kept it out of love for our family. We have to do the same. Alex, what are you going to do? Jessica asked. Something probably really stupid. He reached up and, ignoring the shock of revulsion, grabbed the icon. This time his hands didn't recoil. This time he held on. He lifted it off the hook and turned it around. The demon was there, painted right at the edge of the panel, one clawed foot touching the frame. Its eyes, rendered in grotesque detail, locked onto Alex. Its mouth opened wider, too wide, showing rows of triangular teeth just like in Emma's drawings. Look at it, Alex said to Jessica and Emma. I know it's scary, but look at it. Don't run, don't hide, just look. Alex, this is insane. Probably, but Yaya said it feeds on fear, on our attention, our terror. So what if we don't give it that? What if we give it something else? Jessica understood. Slowly, trembling, she stepped closer. Emma clutched her mother's leg but didn't look away from the painting. The demon's smile widened. Alex could swear he felt the painted surface pulse beneath his hands, as if something living pressed against it from within. Think about each other, Alex said. Emma, think about how much you love Mommy. Jessica, think about Emma. I'll think about both of you. Don't think about the monsters. Think about us, about our family, about love. It sounded ridiculous, like a self-help mantra. But Alex focused his mind on his daughter's laugh, his wife's smile, the feeling of coming home to them every evening. He thought about holidays together, about Emma's birth, about his wedding day, about every moment of joy and connection they'd shared. Beside him, Jessica was crying, but she was smiling too. I love you both so much, she whispered. I love you, Mommy, Emma said. I love you, Daddy. I love you both, Alex said. More than anything, more than I'm afraid of this thing. The demon in the painting recoiled. It was subtle at first, but then undeniable. The figure was pulling back from the edge, shrinking away from the frame. Its expression of hunger changed to one of pain. Its mouth, open in anticipation, now appeared to be screaming. Smoke began to rise from the painted surface. Not real smoke, but a dark, oily vapor that coiled off the wood and dissipated into nothing. The demon was burning, Alex realized, burning in the presence of something it couldn't consume. Love, simple human love, family bond, the strongest magic there was. Keep going, Alex urged. Keep thinking about each other, about us. The demon thrashed in its two-dimensional prison. Alex could see it clearly now, could see the brushstrokes that formed it, the technique of the old master who had painted this 400 years ago. Demetrios had known, had understood. The binding wasn't about trapping the demon with divine power. It was about sealing it away from what gave humans strength, isolating it from love, from connection, from everything that made humanity resistant to evil. As long as the icon faced east toward the Holy Land with the archangel visible, that binding held. But when it was turned, when the demon could see its captors, it fed on their fear and grew stronger. But it couldn't feed on love. It had no defense against that. The figure in the painting was pressed flat against the wood again, as if blown back by a tremendous force. Its screaming mouth grew smaller, its clawed hands retracted. It was being pushed back to the center of the panel, back to its starting position. Alex held on tighter, feeling the icon vibrate in his grip, feeling the demon's rage and helplessness. Jessica, the silver case, on Yeaya's dresser in the bedroom, get it. Jessica ran, Alex and Emma stayed, maintaining their focus, pouring out love and light into the darkness of the painting. The demon continued to recede. By the time Jessica returned with the small silver case, it had been pushed back to the approximate center of the panel, its limbs once again flat and spread as they had been when Dimitrios first bound it. "What now?" Jessica asked, breathless. Alex had found a reference in his research. Silver, pure silver, a traditional ward against evil but also a seal. Yeaya's case, he'd noticed, was solid silver, an heirloom itself. "We seal it permanently. We put a barrier between this thing and the world." Working together, they melted down the silver case using Jessica's lab equipment. It took hours. Emma fell asleep on the couch, exhausted. But by dawn, they had a thin sheet of pure silver, roughly the size of the icon's back. Alex laid the icon face down, the demon visible and thrashing weakly. The night of exposure to focused love had drained it, forced it back into dormancy. But it was still there, still dangerous. They positioned the silver sheet over the painting and began to seal it in place, using silver wire to bind it to the wood. As the last wire was twisted tight, the demon gave one final, silent scream, its face pressing hard against the back of the silver sheet. And then it was done. Alex turned the icon over. The Archangel Michael gazed out, serene and righteous. They rehung it on the eastern wall. It felt lighter now, or maybe that was just Alex's imagination. Less oppressive, less watching. The faint impression of a face, screaming and twisted, was visible in the silver on the back. A permanent reminder of what lay beneath, but it was sealed, trapped, silenced. Over the following days, the apartment returned to normal. The temperature regulated. Emma's nightmares stopped. She went back to drawing flowers and rainbows and pictures of her family. The shadow man was gone. But Alex kept the icon. He was the guardian now, as Yeaya Maria had made him. He would pass it to Emma someday with the full story, with the knowledge of what it contained and why it mattered. Because some things couldn't be destroyed, some evils couldn't be killed. They could only be contained, sealed away, watched over by generation after generation of people who understood that love and responsibility were two sides of the same coin. The icon hung on the eastern wall, facing Jerusalem, the archangel's sad eyes gazing out at the room. "Sorry," Emma had said, sad like he's sorry. Maybe he was sorry that the burden continued, that Dimitrios' sacrifice had bound not just the demon, but all his descendants to eternal guardianship. Or maybe he was sorry that humans had to face such darkness at all, that evil existed in a world that also contained love and light and families like Alex's. But sorry or not, the archangel stood watch. And behind him, pressed forever against a silver seal, the demon raged silently in its prison, held there by faith and love and the unbreakable bonds of family. Alex passed the icon's hanging spot every day. Sometimes he paused to look at it. Most days he didn't. It was just part of his life now, like any family heirloom, a reminder of where he came from, a responsibility he'd pass forward. And every night before bed, he made sure it still faced east, always east, never to be moved, never to be turned. Some rules, he'd learned, existed for very good reasons.